Welcome back to Hardball. President Obama is set to leave the White House in a little over 3 weeks, but as he said with confidence yesterday, he thinks he could have beaten Donald Trump if he'd been allowed to seek a third term. Here's the president in an interview with David Axelrod.
I am confident in this vision because I'm confident that if I had run again and articulated it, I think I could have mobilized a majority of the American people to rally behind it. I know that in conversations that I've had with people around the country, even some people who disagreed with me, they would say the vision, the direction that you point towards is the right one.
Despite his improved relationship with President Obama, the comment clearly rattled President-elect Trump. He responded on Twitter soon after that interview was released. He said, quote, President Obama said that he thinks he would have won against me. He should say that, but I say no way. Jobs leaving, ISIS, Obamacare, etc. And he followed that up late today, saying President Obama campaigned hard and personally in the very important swing states and lost. The voters wanted to make America great again. According to Gallup, President Obama's approval rating this month have reached highs not seen since 2009. Their latest daily tracking poll shows that 56% of Americans say they approve of the job he is doing. I'm joined now by Anthony Scaramucci. He's on the executive committee of the Trump transition, and Jonathan Capehart, an opinion writer with the Washington Post and an MSNBC political analyst. And actually, Anthony, we were just talking about this in the last block. I wonder if this is an extension. We're trying to figure out who Donald Trump is and what kind of philosophy he has. Is this the, you think you're a tough guy, I'm going to show you I'm tougher? You're President Obama, you think you'd have won the election, I'm going to make sure I feel I have to go out there and say I would have won it?
I don't really see it like that. I see it more of a spirited, jocular rivalry. They're both very competitive guys. You caught the president-elect's first tweet, which of course he should say that, meaning the president should say that he could beat him. But I like it. I think it's part of American rivalry, if you will, partisan rivalry. And I don't think there's anything really
I'm curious, like, is that a window into Trump? Because I thought one of the most revealing moments in trying to figure out who Trump was during the campaign, it was in one of the debates. I think it was the second one when they said, say something nice about your opponent. And Hillary Clinton, the nice thing she said is the nice thing every politician says, got a great family. What Donald Trump said about Hillary Clinton was, she's tough. And I read that as Trump sees the world as like, everything is competition, and in competition, there's no rules, and you hit the other guy with whatever you got.
Stephen, you got to give him a little more credit than that. I mean, she answered it the way you would answer that interview question on a job. What's your weakness? And you say, oh, I care too much. That's the classic answer. He looked around to the audience and looked to the 60 million people and said, she's a fighter. I mean, in addition to being a great mom, she's a fighter. So I see it very differently. I think he respects competition. He respects the competitive process. And at the end of the day, I think he likes it. And so I think when the president-elect is going after the current president in that way, it's very jocular. It's two guys. I'm sure they're going to play some golf together. That's my prediction. It's two guys on the golf course that are in a heated battle over what their handicap is, and they're going to see who wins the 18th.
I don't mean to belabor it, but this is the thing I've been dying to know about Trump. Is any of it personal?
I don't mean to disrespect you, but he's the president-elect, really. It's not really Trump anymore, I don't think.
The president-elect, is any of it personal? When he says these things about Bill Clinton, for instance, in the campaign, and people say he might go play golf with him again, is it because in his mind none of it's personal?
I don't see him seeing it as personal. You know, I'm on the executive committee of the transition team, and just look at the outreach to Governor Romney, outreach to other Democrats, outreach to not other Democrats, but Democrats. Romney's obviously a Republican, but my point is that he went to the Never Trump community, the Democrats, and we've opened the tent to as many people as possible. And if you go to these meetings and you talk to the president-elect, he's all about unifying the nation. But he is a competitive guy, and I sort of like it.
And Jonathan Capehart, obviously, President Obama, a competitive guy, too. And, of course, the interview there, we should point out for people who haven't made the connection, David Axelrod was the guy doing the interview. He's the guy who was the architect of those Obama campaigns. But what do you make of the point, the argument the president is making there? He says, hey, I would have won this election if I'd been running.
Well, no, he actually said, I think I could have. I mean, I think one of the problems that President Obama has had throughout his 8 years is that he has a tendency, when asked questions, hypothetical questions, he sort of responds at a remove and starts to take on the role that I am pursuing right now, and that you take on from time to time, that as a commentator, an analyst, a pundit, and looking at his own administration from a remove and talking about what could happen, what might happen, what he thinks ought to happen. And the other thing is we have to keep in mind is the president is giving not many, but a few exit interviews where he really does get a chance to take a step back and talk about things, what he got right, what he could have done better, and what he thinks could have happened if he ran for president again. I think, the president is looking at his track record, at his approval ratings, at the mood of the country, because like President-elect Donald Trump, who campaigned around the country for 2 years, the president's been the president for 8 years, and we saw on the campaign trail, the president was able to pull out hundreds of thousands of people at campaign rallies. It's just unfortunate for the Democratic Party, for the president's legacy, that it wasn't enough to turn President-elect Trump into.
Yeah. I mean, if I had $1 for every Democrat down the stretch in that campaign who was telling me, hey, Obama's approval rating's 58%, can't lose now, and they lost. It didn't transfer over clearly. In his interview with Axelrod, though, the president also spoke about his intentions after he leaves office. Listen to this.
I have to be quiet for a while. And I don't mean politically. I mean internally. I have to still myself. You have to get back in tune with your center and process what's happened before you make a bunch of good decisions. Now, that doesn't mean that if a year from now or a year and a half from now or 2 years from now that I might not weigh in. I'm still a citizen, and that carries with it duties and obligations.
Anthony, I thought that was a very interesting answer there. The precedent on this, you think of George W. Bush. He's basically been silent when it comes to policy during President Obama's term. Mm-hmm. That also comes from his father, George H.W. Bush. He believed very much the former president should not be weighing in with policy disagreements. But you have Obama there basically saying he seems to intend to do that, but is reserving the right maybe to speak up. From Donald Trump's perspective, is there an expectation here about Barack Obama? Would there be a problem if Barack Obama was speaking up with criticism? Would there be an expectation of deference?
Listen, I don't think so, but I think going back to the Bushes, I think they felt that the job is so hard, Stephen, that let's not put more burden and partisanship into the presidency itself. It's sort of this unique club. There's 4 or 5 living presidents now. I guess with President Obama, there'll be 5 again. And so why put that person through that level of critique, if you will? My guess, and I don't know President, I went to law school with President Obama 30 years ago. I don't know him super well. But my guess is he's probably not going to opine about the Trump administration. I think he'll probably adhere to what the 2 Bushes did, because whether you like the president or dislike him on policy, I think he's a very good human being. He's got a great family, and my guess is that he'll look at the institution of the presidency being such that it's sacrosanct not to do that. And so my prediction is that he won't do that. If he does do it, I'll be surprised, and I'll sort of think it's odd, given his nature and given his peaceful transition. And by the way, President-elect Trump, if he was here right now, he'd tell you that the Obama administration has done everything that they can to help us in the transition.
Well, you mentioned you're predicting, you think Donald Trump, Barack Obama might be playing golf.
I think they're going to end up
Is he friends. Is Barack Obama, as a former president, somebody that Donald Trump is going to be picking up the phone late at night or whenever and calling and just saying, hey,
I think so.
What do you think of this?
I think so, because I think after the 90-minute meeting they had, he came back to New York and he expressed to many of us how impressed he was, how he had a really lengthy conversation about a number of different issues, and he really enjoyed his time with the president. Again, these guys are Americans. They're patriots. They'll put the country ahead of each other. And so my guess is, even though there's a partisanship and there's a divide there in terms of how they think about policy and some of their style points may be different, at the end of the day, my guess is they're going to get along. And 2.5 years from now, or whatever he said to David Axelrod, he'll keep to the dictum of not opining on the current president. I just think that's part of the sacrosanct nature of the institution of the presidency. My bet is he adheres to it.
All right, Anthony Scaramucci with the Trump team. Jonathan Capehart down in Washington, you too. Thank you both for joining us. And up next,